Hi there, I'm JD. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about common problems that might stop a pocket watch. So this is the face of an old size 18 pocket watch. It's American Waltham Watch Company. And on this pocket watch, a few things that might cause a problem on the watch right away are the hands. So the first thing you do when you reassemble a watch is you reinstall the second hand here. This is the second hand there, and you reinstall it so that it's flat to the face of the sunken dial. And if you've got that installed properly, there might not be a problem with the hand stopping. If you didn't install it properly and it's touching the sunken dial here, it could stop, right? So that's problem number one. The second problem is, as you reinstall the hands, you reinstall the hour hand first, and then you take this hour hand here, and with the crown, you take, in this case here, it's a lever set watch. You pull the lever out, and then you turn that hour hand around. And that hour hand actually could touch the seconds hand if either the hour hand is too low or the second hand is too high. Now, the funny part about this one here, I guess it's not that funny, but is that you might get that hour hand to glide over the second hand like this because the second hand position is such that the back end of the second hand is over here contacting, or in the same, could make contact with the hour hand. It could slide right over that, and you'd only know if there's a problem 12 hours later when it comes around again, and the second hand, if this is up on the tip of the second hand, is contacting the hour hand. So what you really need to do is make sure that you've got freedom with the second hand and the hour hand. Just bring the second hand or the hour hand over towards the second hand as you install it. Wait for that second hand to come around, and then make sure you've got good clearance. Look at the watch sideways, and then you've got no issue. So you've got good clearance there. So that's just either poorly installed hands or you got some bad luck. So just make sure you have that hour hand installed flat, and then you won't have this particular problem. Other than that, there's only the lever could be outside, not outside, allowing you to set the watch, but that's a pretty obvious problem. So I don't think that's going to be something that'll come up when you're doing your watch repair. So keep an eye on the hour hand, and keep an eye on its position with respect to the seconds hand, and let it so that it rides over the second hand and you don't have that issue. Now let's flip this watch over and have a look at the other side. In this watch here, you've got the balance cock here, and what I've seen problems with the watch here is that the balance cock could be bent at this position here, and that could be causing too much pressure on the upper pivot of the balance. So that could be an issue, and that additional pressure could cause somebody to have to shim the balance. So, and what I mean by shimming the balance is that you've got a piece of watchmaker's paper, and you're jamming that piece of paper right in there to raise up this part of the balance so that you're freeing up, you're actually moving the upper jewel here outward, which is freeing the balance up from being snagged, I guess is the only way to say it. So that's a problem. So in this case here, if this balance cock is bent, bending it backwards is not easy. I have done that before. It's very touchy. You could shim the balance with watch paper. It's a common practice. I've also seen watchmakers that have taken the balance. If you were to flip this over, you would see some scratch marks on the inside of this balance like this. And then they've in fact have scratched the balance to raise the metal to actually have a permanent shim on the balance. So this is one area that of the balance that I've seen problems on in the past. I'm not going to talk about the balance staff and its length and stuff, but in detail. But in general, if the balance staff is too long, that could cause additional friction on the upper balance jewel, which could stop the watch. The other thing is the balance that's swinging around here. If it's not true to flat, it's going to touch the plate, and if it touches the plate, here or here, it's game over. So you're not going to be able to have the watch running perfectly. So to fix this problem, you need to actually true the balance to flat, which means the balance is like this, and your balance staff is going through this way, and you have to have 90 degrees between the balance and the balance staff. I made a video yesterday on calipers, and you use a caliper with a little measurement guide here, and you spin the balance around to make sure you're looking at the gap here, and you're making sure that's consistent, and that way the balance is flat, and that way you're not going to be touching the plate. So that's a problem there too. So that's fixable, but that's what I've seen as common problems in repairing pocket watches. The other thing is making sure that the mainspring barrel. So the mainspring barrel is sitting right in here, and the barrel arbor is right here. And if there's friction on the barrel arbor, the barrel doesn't turn properly, and it doesn't give energy through the train of gears all the way to the pallet fork. The pallet fork is over here. These are the banking pins for the pallet fork. So you're not getting power through the train here. So the reason for this happening usually is that the mainspring barrel is crooked. It's not flat again. So you've got the arbor in here like that, and you've got the upper plate. You draw that in a different color. So you got the upper plate coming up like this, like that. And if there's any angle on this at all, left or right, it's going to cause friction right at this point right here, which will cause the barrel to have problems, like jam basically. So, and that will cause the watch to not get the power through the barrel. So that you got to watch out for that. I've seen in the past people putting the wrong screws in, so the screws aren't set properly down, and that causes the plate not to be on properly, which causes the barrel arbor to jam. There's really no fix to that other than making sure that barrel is in properly, right? So that's that. Make sure you put a little bit of oil on there too, by the way, when you're repairing your pocket watch. Other than that, the only other problems could be the case screws here, and they're not seated in properly, and they're causing the movement itself to be jogged to the left or jogged to the right, or clockwise or counterclockwise, which would cause the stem through crown to not be installed properly in the watch, which would cause more problems, reference winding. So you wouldn't be able to wind the watch properly. I don't know if it would stop the watch, but it would definitely cause the watch to not be able to be wound properly, so you can check for that problem. And this particular watch has got a screw. I'll show you this here. It's got a little tiny screw that holds the, right there. It's got this screw that actually holds the crown in place. And because it's a lever set watch, this crown doesn't either go up or down. It doesn't go either up or down. So it just stays where it is, and the screw holds, it's basically screwed down into the stem where there's a little tiny ridge like this, and the screw goes down there, and it keeps the stem in place, and the crown is on the end here. So that's kind of how that works. So there could be something wrong there. It could be too loose. Your crown could fall off. There could be problems there. So that's pretty much the top end of the watch. The other thing to watch out for is the regulator pins are right here, and they're riding on the hairspring, and you've got to make sure that the hairspring is going through the regulator pins, and there's no issue there. If you're installing the watch and the hairspring drops down with the balance, there's a chance that those regulator pins could fall out. Usually that only happens if the regulator screw is not in place properly. So this little screw right here that holds the balance stud, or sorry, the hairspring stud in place. And if this is too low, if the screw is too low, L-O-W, then the hairspring would drop out of the regulator pins, and that could cause the watch to not operate properly. So check for that as well. Also check to see that there's no rocking of the upper jewel here. So if you look at the upper balance jewel here, if it's sort of looks like it's rocked sideways or whatever, then that's not going to be properly fitted, and the actual balance staff pivot will be bent through there. And if you've got a bent balance staff pivot going through the jewel hole like this, that'll cause additional friction and not let the watch work properly. So if you look at the cap jewel that's on top, and the balance stops right there. So I should make sure I show you that, otherwise you're going to get mad at me. The balance stops right there. There's a little tiny bit of end shake here. If this is at an angle, there's friction here, and you can sometimes see the cap jewel is actually at an angle, which means that it wasn't installed properly, and you can check for that to make sure there's no problem. So that's pretty much it for this side of the watch. I think I've covered a lot. I'm not sure if I've covered all of it. Also make sure the screw here for the balance cock is properly in place, right? That this screw is seated down in the balance. There's no gaps here that you can see visible for the balance resting against the plate here, because that will cause this all to be off kilter. There's a word that I've never used before. So that's that. In the next video, we're going to cover all of the complex mechanisms inside this watch. So you're effectively going to look inside the watch movement for potential problems that could cause the watch to stop. As an example, teeth issues. As another example, the balance position here, problems with the ratchet and crown wheels, ratchet wheels and crown wheels, other things. So I'm going to make another video, and I'll have that loaded up in the next couple of days and deal with more complex issues associated with the pocket watch or watches, and how they could either run poorly or even stop. So thanks for watching my video. I'm JD. Welcome to my channel. Please hit like, please subscribe, and if you like this video in this format, please let me know, and we'll continue on. So I think so far things are pretty good. Let me see if I can finish the video with a happy face. Look at that. There we go. That's a happy watch movement. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.